Welcome to Fantasy Football Court. We are four regular guys talking all things fantasy football. Unlike some other shows, we only talk about fantasy football. We make our arguments, we present our cases, and you are the judge. We are all in the same fantasy football league. The people are real, the league is real, and the trash talking is real. Court is now. Welcome to Fantasy Football Court again. My name is Charles.
My name is Andrew.
My name is Nick.
And I'm Jeremy.
Today we're going to put the Kansas City Chiefs on the stand, and we're going to cross-examine them and question them at every position. Before we get started with our initial thoughts, I just want you to know we are going to cover all the positions. We're going to rank the running backs and where you should draft them. We're getting questions and comments about that. That's going to happen, but we can't put everything into one show, obviously. So just hang on for that. Jeremy, what are your initial thoughts of the Kansas City Chiefs?
Boom or bust, I guess, to a certain degree. I think that they're relying on maybe Pat Mahomes or Mahomes, however you say his name, to maybe take over from Alex Smith at some point. I saw in one mock draft where he went above Alex Smith, actually, believe it or not.
I want to play in that
league.
Study. That's the league I want to play.
They traded up to get him.
Yeah. I think that there's a plan this year where Mahomes will see the field.
All right. Wow. You heard it here. Nick?
Defense. They had a great scoring defense last year, and I don't think it's going to be. I think it's going to be about the same.
They did. They put up some fantasy points. Andy, any thoughts on the Chiefs?
I'm very curious to see what's going to happen in looking at preseason and seeing some of the players they have there. So
yeah, I agree with them. I don't really have an overwhelming thought about them. Nobody really stands out as a top-tier fantasy producer on this team. I think traditionally the wide receivers have been a disappointment. The quarterback's been a disappointment. And now that Jamal Charles is left, it'll be interesting to see what's left behind and see if they can produce anything. I'm going to start with Jeremy first on the quarterback since he broke the Mahomes is going to be starting week 1.
I didn't say that.
I'm just kidding.
I'm not high on him like you are Leonard Fournette, who's going to be all-pro this is rookie year.
Leonard Fournette will be rookie of the year. I got thinking about it last night, and I'm ready to declare that. That's another debate.
Pat Mahomes, the thing is, and here's what I think they're trying to transition to, the Chiefs have good talent.
Yes.
Spencer Ware's talented. Tyreek Hill's talented. They've had good wide receivers. Kelsey's talented. They've had good wide receivers the last few years. They've had good running backs, but they have not been able to crack that barrier of being what we would consider a high-end offense. So the reason they drafted Pat Mahomes is because Mahomes is one of those gunslinger-type quarterbacks that can take it back, take 5 steps, and just throw it all over the field. Do I think he starts week 1? I don't even think he starts week 8 or 10. But I think if Alex Smith struggles, that you may see Mahomes in there some. So with that said, I would stay away from the quarterback position.
Nick?
I do not see Pat Mahomes getting anything this year. They'll still be a playoff team, and I don't know why they would mess that up by benching their starting quarterback, Alex Smith. So, Alex Smith is not going to be a viable fantasy option. But
you think Mahomes is their future, possibly?
I think he's their future.
Why would they trade up to get him if they didn't want to be their future?
I'm kind of worried about how good of a quarterback he will be in the future, but I think he has potential.
Any thoughts?
I think Alex Smith's going to be the man this year. I think they did trade up to get that quarterback because next year Alex Smith's contract's going to be up. He's getting older, and we can see a change maybe next year if they really struggle this year or Alex Smith doesn't do that great. But I think they ride it out with Alex Smith this year.
Yeah, Alex Smith is not a quarterback I can get excited about. I don't think any of us would be excited going into week 1 as him as our starting quarterback.
I'm not even excited if he's on my roster.
Yeah, I agree. I think Nick Smith or Alex Smith is somebody you want to stay away from. He just has never lived up to any type of fantasy quarterback that we would like. All right, we're going to move on since there's not much to talk about there. We're going to go to the running backs, and I'm going to start with Nick first on the running backs.
All right, well, the interesting thing is everybody knows about Spencer Ware. Spencer Ware had a great season last season, fantasy-wise. But the interesting thing is they really like Kareem Hunt. A lot of people expect him midway through the season to take over and take the starting job from Spencer Ware. I'm not so sure. I don't know. I think there might be a committee there, but I don't think you're going to see him start and take over the starting role. I still like Spencer Ware. I think he's going to be their back this year. He might not produce as much as he did last year because of Kareem Hunt, but I think he's still a good viable option at running back, probably at least a top 20 running back.
Jeremy, thoughts on the running backs?
I think the way it's going to shake out is Spencer Ware. He'll produce low-end RB2 numbers. He had 1,368 yards last year, only had 5 TDs and 33 catches. I would probably say he'll get about the same production this year. Kareem Hunt, here's the deal about him. He has good upside, decent receiver. Will probably, I've already heard that they're already counting on him to get all the goal line touches. He'll be their goal line touch guy, but he is not a home run threat. You go back and look at his college career, he does not have that elite speed to separate in the second level, especially not in the NFL. So he's going to be that 4 yards in a cloud of dust type running back. So Spencer Ware produces that big play ability.
Yeah.
I don't see them going away from Spencer Ware, because as soon as they go away from Spencer Ware, they don't have to worry about Kareem Hunt breaking away from a linebacker.
When I think about Kansas City's running backs, I think of a 3 running back committee that I think they're going to use all 3 of them at some point throughout the season. Yeah, with West and whichever one kind of services to the top. Ware's definitely their top guy. Now last year, Ware was 3rd on the depth chart, and
I'd say 2 years ago, Charkandrick West was talking about pushing Jamal Charles.
right, and he was threatening it last year before Jamal Charles got hurt. Of course, Spencer Ware stepped up. I actually had him on my team, and a couple good games he had really helped me because I started them at the right time. But I think we're going to see all 3 running backs in different scenarios, and so for that reason, I'm hesitant drafting a Kansas City running back.
I got a wild card for you. C.J. Spiller is with this team. He could be a surprise element. He could be somebody.
Haven't we been saying that for 20 years?
Yeah, yes, but I think this is better than when he was with the Buffalo Bills
And Saints?
and the Saints. Yes, I just said it's a wild card. I didn't
step
say.
with somebody
I didn't
else,
say
too.
I don't project him to do anything. I don't see them carrying 4 running backs into the season.
I don't
Y'all?
either.
Last couple of years, they've carried 3 running backs and stashed the 4th on their practice roster.
So C.J. Spiller gets stashed if he doesn't make it or cut.
With the guys that are here, I don't see C.J. Spiller stepping in front.
I would have to go back and look at NFLPA rules. I don't know that C.J. Spiller,
Because
with his years in the league,
Can
is
be on the
eligible
practice squad, yeah.
to be a practice squad player.
Currently,
Probably
Spencer
not.
Ware is the 18th running back taken off the board, so that's mid to end of the 2nd round.
I could see him in somebody's starting lineup.
Oh yeah, he's going to be in somebody's starting lineup.
So,
Do you want
18
him? Real briefly, we're going to go down the line. Do you want Spencer Ware if he's available mid to the 2nd round? Is he somebody you would take a shot on?
Not at mid-second round.
Not mid-second round.
I mean to the end. I'm talking.
Not even
Maybe
looking at-
4th round.
4th is probably
4th
where-
round?
Yeah,
Yes,
like late
I agree.
3rd, 4th.
Wow,
Yeah.
he will be taken before that, but we're not very high on Spencer Ware. I kind of agree with him. I'm thinking I may look at him seriously at the end of a 2nd round, middle 3rd round, maybe. I'm maybe a little higher than they
I
are.
think
He
he'd be
is
a
going to
good pair
carry the
for
rock
that.
for that team. I think he is going to fill in for that Jamal Charles type role. I think that's who they're going to focus the most of their running back duties on. All right, let's move to the wide receivers, and I'm going to start with Jeremy first with this. Jeremy, any thoughts on the wide receivers?
In my opinion, the only fantasy-worthy wide receiver they have is Kareem Hunt.
You mean Tyreek Hill?
I'm sorry.
Wide receiver.
I looked at the wrong person in my notes. Tyreek Hill, wide receiver 2 is what I have him at. I'm not sold on him. He did finish strong last year, which is why people were a little bit high on him this year. The fact that he's moving in as the number 1 wide receiver now. But I think with him finishing the last 10 games, he had 718 yards, 47 catches with 8 TDs. Now that 8 TDs was pretty strong for the last 10 games. I just don't know that he's ready to be a wide receiver 1, though. I think that if the Chiefs could have brought in another high-end wide receiver, or even maybe drafted one in the 1st round or whatever, I think they'd have been better off.
Nick?
Yeah, I think the same. I just don't know how well Tyreek Hill can handle that number 1 receiver dude. He's going to have Chris Connolly or Albert Wilson to step up and take some of those targets, and not necessarily targets, some of that pressure off of him for him to succeed. I mean, he has Kelsey there. It's going to take some pressure because Kelsey, I think, is going to be their number 1 option, receiving option. But Tyreek Hill, I like how they use him everywhere. They kind of throw it to him. They put line him up in the backfield, line him up at slot, line him outside. They'll even hand it off to him on a speed sweep every once in a while. They like to use him in different ways. But I mean, with him just being that number one guy, it's going to be hard to see as much fantasy production because I don't know if he can handle that number one.
I think I can speak with some authority here. No Kansas City receiver since Alex Smith has been there has really excelled at fantasy
No.
football. He's just not somebody that gets the ball out to these receivers to make them any viable option. What do you think?
I agree. And do you think it has somewhat to do with Andy Reid also?
Oh yeah, Andy Reid is a run the ball, play defense.
Has Andy Reid ever had a top 10 wide receiver?
That's what I was about to say.
Has
So,
to.
in Andy Reid offenses, I don't remember ever having just a stud wide receiver
No.
that stood out.
An elite, no.
It's always been running
Didn't-
defense.
Well, he
and-
had-
Didn't he had with the Eagles?
T.O.
He
Deshaun.
had some players,
Yeah.
yes, that I mean, just were absolutely. But I don't see any of these receivers
But he's not a sling
being that
throw it
guy
around.
that in their offense they're like, hey, we got to get this guy the ball.
Right.
They're going to spread it out when they do throw it. Travis Kelce's going to be the top receiver as far as numbers
I
this
agree.
year, and I'm not high on any of their receivers. I think they're decent guys and they could, do all right. But when it comes to fantasy football, I'm not a big fan of the Kansas City receivers.
Even if they had a top tier receiver, I think, Jeremy, I don't know that, I agree with Andy, I don't know that they focus the receivers much in their offense other than having to get a first down.
Right.
They'll throw when it's 3rd and 8 and they have to throw, but it isn't the long bombs. You don't see the Phillip Rivers or some of the other quarterbacks, the Aaron Rodgers that, will go deep with it consistently.
Last year, though, he did in the Super Bowl week. He did make a lot of people happy. Probably won some. If somebody was lucky enough to have him in daily fantasy football leagues, I guarantee he made a bunch of people a bunch of money because the Super Bowl week 16, I think it was. He had 100+ yards rushing with a TD.
Who are we
and
talking about?
Tyreek Hill, the wide receiver.
Oh, okay.
And then he had another TD receiving, and I guarantee you he won people Super Bowls
Yeah.
that game. So he does have the ability to get hot and have a big game, especially with them handing the ball to him.
I think he's a player that they could utilize in that kind of role and do better with. It just, are they going to do it?
Tyreek Hill is currently the 24th receiver taken off the board in mock drafts today. So is he somebody y'all want on your team?
At 24, being the number one receiver on a team, you have to look at him. I don't know that I want him, but you have to give respect to the fact that he is a wide receiver 1 on the team.
Yeah. Nick? thoughts?
Yeah, I think the same way. The fact that he is the number one wide receiver, I think I probably might look at him to be on my team. I might like having him.
I'm not real excited. I think there's some other guys around that ranking there that I think I will look at
Yeah, I agree.
ahead of him.
Let's move to the next position, and I'm gonna just briefly, it's just yes or no on this, and then we'll break down the position. Does Travis Kelce lead this team in receiving?
Yes.
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 Yes. So I think he's definitely somebody we're worth talking about. Nick, I'll start with you first on the tight ends.
All right. Well, I had Travis Kelce last year, and he ended up paying up a lot for me. He was number one fantasy scoring tight end last year. I mean, he just had an unbelievable season. Does he repeat that? I think so. I don't think he's the number one tight end, but I think he's still top 2, top 3 tight end. I don't
Yeah.
see, because he is. There, no doubt about it, number one receiving option. I don't see anybody else having more receiving yards, catches, touchdowns than he does. Maybe touchdowns, maybe. I don't think he was high on touchdowns last
He
year.
only had 4.
Yeah, he only had 4 touchdowns last year, but he had opportunities to have more touchdowns than what he did. And that's one thing that was kind of disappointing about him last year, but still, he's number one fantasy scoring tight end. I still think he's top 3 tight end this year. I currently think I have him number 2 tight end.
Jeremy, thoughts on him?
117 targets last year. There's some wide receiver ones that did not get 117 targets. Had 1,000+ yard receiving, as Nick said, was low on touchdowns. But I think, now, I'll post this question to you. Do you think Macklin leaving hurts him or helps him? I think it helps him.
Helps. Yeah, I agree.
I mean, I necessarily don't think it helps or hurts either way. He wasn't a factor last year.
I think that it focuses more on him now. Kelce
Yeah.
does. I think Kelce
Yeah, I
gets
think Kelce-
an additional 20, 30 targets this year with
Maybe,
Macklin
yeah.
gone.
I think Kelsey can produce. I'm gonna make a prediction. I think he does better this year than he did last year.
Well, all he has to do is get a couple more touchdowns.
Yeah.
That's all. He's gonna do better.
I like Travis Kelsey. I have him up there with Gronk, and one of the reasons is because of Gronk's health. I almost wouldn't mind having Travis Kelsey.
I would
Probably
if
so.
the
Yeah.
draft happened today, I would take Kelsey before I did Gronk.
Me
I would
too.
so-
Yeah. So all four of us that are agreeing.
Even though in the past Gronk's proven to be a great, I think as far as consistency and Kelsey's, his touchdowns are going to go up this year. There's going to be more than 4.
Okay. I'm imagining. I haven't seen the average draft position of Travis Kelsey. He's currently the third tight end taken off the board, but he almost has to be a second or third rounder. He almost
Round
has
three.
to be.
It says right now on this ADP board I'm looking at right now is a 4th round. So
Yeah. He won't make it to the fourth.
I
I don't think.
I-
I don't
You
think
let
he
him
will.
be available in the third round.
I had a
But
guy
that's-
want me to play in a keeper league with him, and they said what we do is we have players. If you keep a player, you just lose whatever draft position that he'll be. And they had the guy that kept Kelsey was going to lose an 11th round pick to keep Kelsey. I said I can't play at that because there's no way he's an 11th round pick.
no.
No.
Well, when I say 4th round pick, that's the first round, 4th round pick when it comes around. So it's more like late
Into the
third.
third round.
Yeah.
He is definitely somebody I think that'll wind up moving. He's another player that'll wind up moving up the boards the closer we get the draft. I mean, he's their number one wide receiver.
If I take 2 running backs in rounds 1 and 2,
Yeah.
and all the elite wide receivers are off the board, I take Kelsey because he's
Yeah.
going
Agreed.
to put up wide receiver 1 numbers.
Well, last year Gronk went in the first round in our draft. He probably went first round in most of your drafts. And if we're saying we would take Kelsey over Gronkowski, he has to be mentioned for the second round. I mean, it's not that much of a shot.
I don't-
But I'm not saying you would, but I think he's going to move up.
I would tell you, the person with the number 1 draft pick, that's not a bad. If that you take David Johnson with pick 1 coming back around, and you either get another running back in the second round,
Or Kelsey?
or whatever, then the first pick of the third round,
Yeah.
getting Kelsey,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
not a bad
That wouldn't be
option.
bad.
Yeah, that wouldn't be bad at all. We're really high on Kelsey this year.
Agreed.
All right, we're going to move on to the defense. I'm going to start with Jeremy first on this. Any thoughts on
I'm
the
not as
defense?
high on this defense as everybody else is. Last year, they did produce fantasy points, but they were still in that 12 to 15 rank in rushing yards allowed and passing yards allowed. Eric Berry played out of his mind, had a great year. He'll probably do it again because the man is he's a special talent. I've heard people talk about top 5, top 6 defense. I've got them 12, 13.
Yeah, I'm not that excited about him.
I still see no reason why they can't be a top 5 fantasy scoring defense again this year. I mean, with Marcus Peters, the reason why he's prone to making like big play decisions. Like he might jump a route or something, and they might burn him one play, but that second or third play, he's going to catch something. He's going to take it to the house. And that's where why they scored so many big play, so many fantasy points last year is because a lot of their secondary would do that. They would jump routes. They'd make some risky decisions. It would pay off sometimes, and they'd get that that pick 6 or something like that. If they play the same way this year, you could have the same way. They could be inconsistent, but they could. In them games when they do score a lot of points, it's a lot of points.
I have them about the mid to upper level defense, but I'm not anything. I'm not salivating over their defense. I wouldn't mind having their defense on my team, on my roster the first game of the season, but I don't really have a whole lot.
I personally like their defense when it comes to fantasy football and the
Yeah.
points and the potential. Like Nick was saying, I actually do like their team. I've got them in the top 8 in my rankings, but I like the potential there for their defense, and I think their offense, depending on how they play, is going to affect that also. But I like the Kansas City defense.
Well, you got to look also what division they're in. They've got to face that Oakland offense with Derek Carr. They got to face. It slipped my mind.
San
Oakland,
Diego.
San Diego with Phillip Rivers. So they're going to be facing some passing teams that have the opportunity to put up some big.
Yeah,
I
but then
don't
you
want
look
their
at-
defense week 1.
But then you look at Denver's offense. That's not much.
Yeah, I didn't mention. If you notice, I left them out. But
Week-
the other two are worth. who
Week
they got
one,
first?
they play Thursday night against the Patriots.
That is their first opening game. Yeah, September 7th.
September 7th.
is the opening game of NFL season. So,
But
that's
now,
gonna be a good game.
after that, though, it gets. Hold on, I'm pulling it up, but
Okay.
it gets a little bit better. With they get the Eagles, the Chargers, the Chiefs, the Texans. So that's not horrible. You can look at a couple of those
It was
matchups.
a Chiefs. I mean, we're talking about the Chiefs. They can't play the Chiefs.
I'm talking the Chargers, the Redskins.
Oh, the Redskins. Oh, yeah, I get that. Redskins and the Chiefs. All right, they play another Indian team. All right, I don't really have any more comment on that. We're going to get on to the kicker. Andy, who do we have over there?
Cairo Santos, again, he's kind of a middle of the line kicker, and if their offense does like what they're predicted to do, he might have more opportunities to score. He's a middle of the line kicker, not nothing to get real excited about.
Yeah, I don't really have comment on that. Nick,
Now there ain't really no comment on the kicker.
Jeremy? All right, we don't treat kickers as much as we do the other position players. Although week in and week out, they can get you a lot of points, or they can get you 2 or 3 points because that's all the offense scores. And they
Or
just
take
get-
you backwards.
Yeah, or they can miss. And
They're hard to predict.
They are.
That's the
They
thing.
are.
If you hit it right, then you're golden.
Right.
But there's no way of knowing.
I've said in other episodes, what I look for is kickers that are in domes, especially when you get in the winter and you've got rain and cold and sleet and snow and
Domes are an offense that's producing a lot of points.
yeah.
I look for kickers with snow and lots of fog.
All right. Any final comments on the Kansas City Chiefs, and we'll wrap it up. Andy, you got anything?
Tight end.
Yeah,
I'd love to have Kelsey.
Yeah, I think Kelsey is about my top player off this team. I don't see the quarterback making much of a difference, and I think they're going to be the Kansas City Chiefs of old.
I'd love to have Kelsey. Wouldn't mind having their defense either.
Kelsey's the only player that I'm excited if I get off this team.
All right. If you want to hit us up on social media,
Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all of them are at FF Court.
If you have any questions, anything that you want us to cover, any material that we need to help you with, just send it to us on our social media pages, and we'll be more than happy to address it in an upcoming episode or even cut you your own video.
all right, court is adjourned.